Alright, so let's talk about the future. The types of things we're going to see. What will you see in the future? Depletion of resources. So, looking at the future, I'm going to present it in such a way that I can show you what I see. So, let's go back here in the past what we were talking about. We're gonna stick you in this box. And inside this box, this is you. You're dead. You're in a box. Okay? But when you died, we put you inside a bag, and we took that bag and we took all the water out. Water out, and we freeze dried you. Okay, so we freeze dried you and we buried you in an aluminum sealed coffin. Now, that can be TIG welded shut, and we could also make it so it has like an outer layer of titanium. We can do a lot of different things. And the inside can be filled with sand, for example, or some other preserving material. So let's say we take the inside of this thing and we fill it full. We pack it nice and neat. And inside there we have sand, and on the outside we have aluminum. And maybe on the outside of that we could even plate the outside with titanium. Did you know a 1 millimeter layer, thick layer of titanium is good for 10,000 years. 10,000 years. It's amazing. So titanium, definitely way to go. Of course, it's super expensive. So this is pretty much a way that the rich could get to the future, I guess. So that aluminum coffin, TIG weld aluminum that size. Let's see the process. Let's look at the money. So let's look at the bag. The bag's going to be like, I don't know. Let's call that $1,000 in today's money. The clamp system here with the vacuum extractor for the freeze-dried process, that's going to cost another, say, $500 just for that multi. You can even use a bimetal flange. Let's do a bimetal flange. Okay, bimetal flange. We're going to UV extract, freeze dry, or ultra high vacuum or low vacuum. Just vacuum. We're going to vacuum extract all the water. Okay, now you got this coffin on the outside. It could run you anywhere from, just in material costs right now, between $3,000 to $8,000. These are just material costs. That's not like fabricated or anything. So, your plates. I'm estimating probably 3/4 inch to 1.5 inch thick. Now, right now they're just, coffins. They're not doing this, but you could do this. And not only that, you talk about the best way to preserve someone in a freeze-dried condition like this. This is going to be pretty straightforward. It's going to be plates, and you can even instead of TIG weld, you can do TIG. You can do stir weld. Actually, the stir welding might be a good option because then you can do long axes and you can do this on a CNC. So that'd be a good way. So this is essentially our time machine. Now inside here, you're going to have the cage structure around the person's head. Right there, it's going to be inside the bag, so you can put their head in the cage. It's going to be screwed to their skull, and it's going to be then we're going to do the freeze-dry water extraction process. And now this is going to be buried. Now you talk about how to bury these things, so you're going to plant them in the ground. Well, is the best way to lay a body? Let's just do like this. It's the best way to lay a body like this in the ground, and then, of course that is not the right way to do it. I mean, you could if you want to lay it down, I suppose, but let's look at for space saving means. I mean, wouldn't it be better to plant them down like this? Heck, you could even do a stack. Just drill a hole and stack these suckers up all the way down to the ground. right? Maybe 10 at a time. I mean, this is very inefficient to do it like this. Not only that, if you're going to be doing this, you know, that's going to be hundreds of pounds of aluminum. So the scavengers between here and the future that find these coffins, they're just going to dig them right up. They have no qualms about it. This is post-apocalyptic world. They're not going to care about your poor dead body and your wish to be brought back from the future. So let's, we're going to have to find, there's going to have to be special places. And like I said, your footprint, let's say this is the ground and you have somebody going along, or you have a drone even, it's going along with a metal detector, you know, that's going to produce a pretty big ping back. And that's going to be bad because they're going to find you, they're going to dig you up, and they're going to use your metal coffin or your time machine to further their paltry existence, which is obviously, it's just going to be a junker's existence, to be honest. Very Mad Max, very Mad Max. I gotta say, it's going to be very Mad Max. We're living in paradise right now compared to what I see for the future. So there's going to have to be special places. Now, luckily, a lot of people have insurance, death insurance, funeral insurance, all these things that are set up to pay for this type of thing when you die. So, even though you have all these costs, let's say your total cost for your time machine, as opposed to being some, people think about time machine, they're like, man, you know, Back to the Future, the reason why they connect with that DeLorean is because they can understand, oh, that's a DeLorean. I can afford a DeLorean, so they really like the idea. Well, this is kind of like a DeLorean too. Stainless steel, aluminum, maybe bimetal bonded with explosion bonding, to be able to make it so you have this vessel to carry your body into the future. And you ask yourself, well, why would I want to do that? Zia, you haven't told me why yet. Okay, well, there's something very specific, and that's going to happen in the near future. The SQUID technology, subquantum interference detection, magnetic helmets that they've been developing, are scanning live conscious humans so they can create computer programs that mimic how our minds work. So why would you want to do that? Well, let's give you an example of what they're going to do. So aside from this you're going to die thing, let's go into something else real quick. So this is cool. This is just an example of one thing. So that's great and all. All right, the human mind. Let's go ahead and move on from this. Oh, the screen's not crazy. Sorry. Okay, so the human mind can be scanned. So we're going to just draw this brain here. And we're going to scan this human mind. Now, why would you want to do this? Let's say you got your eyeballs here, and you have somebody look at and listen to stuff on a screen, and at the same time they're wearing a subquantum interference detection helmet, and that subquantum interference detection helmet writes what it sees into tables and programs as the person looks at a screen and listens to certain prompts. And let's say that person is elderly. They've been diagnosed with a terminal disease. Grandpa and grandma. Okay, it happens. Young children happens. It happens all over. When you get diagnosed with a terminal, you're going to die ailment, or something where you might die. You're going into surgery or something, or something life-changing is going to happen. Before you die, you could go put on one of these subquantum interference devices, SQUIDs. Subquantum interference device. It's a helmet that can detect thoughts. And when you watch certain programs or shows, it triggers things in your mind that the subquantum interference detection helmet or the magnetic resonance reader can see. And then, of course, you could have a program that's sitting there and cataloging that. And it can be basic responses. I see a circle. Well, when I see a circle, it writes this part in your brain. You're like, okay, that's this type of person. So quite literally, you could create a virtual facsimile of a person by sending them, they read a couple hundred questions, or they watch a few videos, they listen to some music, and when they're done, when they answer these questions, when they watch the videos, when they listen to the music, and they go through like maybe a brief interactive therapy session with a trained advisor, an image is created of who they are, what they believe, and how they would answer those same questions. So you could quite literally go to a bank of sorts. I think they should be publicly funded, so that in the future, when people wanted to get advice from their grandparent, their unique advice from their grandparent, they could go to one of these centers that hold these images, these life images, unique perspectives of the different people. Because each one's going to be unique. So, like, my mom is going to answer things in a certain way. My dad is going to answer things in a certain way. My son is going to answer things in a certain way. And it kind of creates a snapshot. You can still do it when you're healthy, but I'm saying as a terminal end-of-life situation, you could definitely record somebody's unique perspective and create something like an interactive AI program where you could literally talk to it. We are almost at that point. I'd say within the next, you could even do it in the next 10 years if you really put some money behind it. But, you'd have to find a way to make it profitable. I think it's going to be profitable as well to be able to talk to grandpa or grandma in a virtual sense. So this is definitely something that's on the forefront. Using the same scanning technology, but in a broader sense, you could scan somebody's mind and create a similar facsimile, like kind of fill in the gaps. However, there will come a time when we talk about consciousness, and when I'm going to go back to the Einstein thing about casual loops in time. The unique structure of everyone's mind may be so unique that it is the essence of consciousness. And even in a reasonable computer facsimile, it may be possible. Now, you may need an actual hard-coded lump of something that could be this part. Maybe that's what's needed. However, I think, we'll just say for now we could probably do it with facsimile. Is the person who is being simulated, is that really their consciousness? It may very well be with the right type of silicon matrix. A silicon matrix designed to hardwire, echo-emulate the human mind based upon neuropeptides and other things that are the tracing of the human mind inside here, and then lay out into essentially a brick of materials that interact in the same manner. And we may find out that the uniqueness of consciousness, what we consider consciousness in this reality, could be simulated inside a brick of silicon. And the uniqueness of what you consider, is it going to contain all your experiences, all your other stuff? If you wrote it right, if you built it right, yeah, it would. How far away are we from something like this? 300 years. There you go. Good estimate. Based upon where we are, maybe 325, maybe 500. You think, it's not gonna be that far off because, I've got my iPhone, I've got all this other stuff. That's not gonna be the same as this. What we're talking about here with simulation of the human mind is that we have a physical facsimile of the human mind. And of course, you can develop the software with this methodology and get very close. But when you talk about taking your time machine into the future, what does a time machine like this cost? Let's say it costs $40,000. $40,000 US dollars. I can put you and preserve you in such a way that you could literally go 1,000 years into the future, and we could scan your mind with X-ray devices, map the actual structure of your mind. We would know it. It's kind of like a PLC program. It's written, so all you got to do is have the stuff that interacts with that code written down or programmed in, and then you have a physical thing that interacts with, well, you have a process there too. But how would you take all this information that's here, put it in here if you're talking about an X-ray scan? And I think with the right simulator, you could simulate the human mind even if it was preserved. And we're talking like long term, we're talking hundreds, maybe even thousands of years. So time machine costs, we're not talking billions of dollars. And that's one of the problems. You see the time machines, you know, Terminator 3, where they have like an entire gigantic facility and these huge zappy things that, okay, fine. That's sci-fi. This is something that's an achievable reality with reasonable costs and setup. I think this is a great way to get to the future. So what are we going to find? This is the public database where you can scan, but what are we going to find when we go to the future? Okay, let's say we do this and we're somehow able to scan the human mind, dump it into this facsimile cube that has software in it that essentially runs the same pathways in the same order as you when you were alive. Well, how do we know what paths those are going to be and what directions are they going to be? Because we can scan live humans. And we know that generally it's going to be the same between humans. Now everybody's going to have a little bit of different types of pathways and the way they trigger. However, that's going to be apparent by the scan, the matrix scan, that you're going to do your X-ray scan. The X-ray scan you do of the human mind to physically map out where all the elements are and the physical structure. You can use X-ray, you can use ultrasound. Now, phased ultrasound arrays have not, I mean, they're out there, but that's the future of tissue scanning, is phased ultrasound. X-ray scans, you can go all the way down to the atomic level, but you have some tissue degradation and things like that you have to deal with. Ultrasound, phased ultrasound arrays and phased ultrasound microphones are going to be the future, I think, of medicine when it comes to soft tissue scanning without damage. So if we know exactly what that brain looks like and we can simulate it or essentially start it up, you know, you've got all these data blocks essentially, and then you say run, and they should work. And that's really kind of a crazy way to think about it, but you know, let's jump forward. Instead of thinking, oh, I gotta wait 300 years to do this, this isn't that far off from what we could do right now if we focused our resources. Right now, we don't have the ability to travel through time. I don't think we're going to. The only way we're going to be able to do it is through preservation, and you know, from a wisdom or a wise type of person to another person, like advice situation. I have to say that's the only way to do it. It's the only way to do it. You're gonna go forward. You want a time machine? That's the way you do it. You're gonna have to spend about $40,000, preserve the human body, put it in a box, bury the box somewhere where you can't find it, and hope you can make it into the future, and to be welcomed by a corporation that's been doing it for a while and has enough money to be able to pull you out, scan you, and essentially bring you back to life. Now, bringing you back to life. This is essentially, I envision a company that you just call Eternity, or a church, or something that believes in the premise of bringing people back in the future. And unfortunately, cryogenics, you have to keep those active. You have to keep those continuous. You have to keep them cold. I mean, that's the theory behind cryogenics. I think that with proper sealed coffins that are where the person has had all their water or the majority of their water removed and use preservation chemicals to preserve the physical structure, then in the future, like the peat bog or peat moss bog people that they've been digging up recently, you know, woolly mammoths, and I think, you know, 40,000 years. That's a long time in peat moss or peat bog. I think this is a little bit more effective So let's move into the future. Let's move into the future. We're in the future. We have the matrix. We have the software. We have the X-ray and ultrasonic scans. We can take a human mind, scan it, dump it into a silicon matrix that will act just like the human mind and the order of firing that it takes to induce consciousness in a silicon matrix. That's going to be the future. That's how you're going to get to the future. That's how time travel is actually going to work.